Hey everyone! I have been knee-deep in finals. I'm almost done with them luckily, and I'm almost finished with the semester, but I do have like a year or so of college left to go, so hopefully smooth sailing from here on out, along with this upcoming spring semester that I'm gonna stay in Utah for. But anyways, I've been thinking about school and what could have been, basically, which I'll talk about here, I suppose. So I got into college with a very different goal in mind, and that specifically was to become a mechanical engineer. That didn't work out, which I had explained, not really going too in-depth about it in explaining my coming out to my professor video that I made like a couple months ago, I think, at this point. But, of course, you're going to hear that entire process of my transition from being a mechanical engineer into what I'm doing right now, that is, being involved as a geography major. Which seems like a drastic switch, but I would have it no other way, especially with the circumstances that I've been presented with. So, yeah, mechanical engineer. And that should come to no surprise for some of you, especially since some of you know that I am very passionate about flight physics and just science and everything like that. I wanted to be a STEM guy. I was very passionate about spaceflight. That's what I wanted to get into. I wanted to work with a big aerospace company. SpaceX was the place to go for me. It was super cool. My dad took me to the Crew 2 launch in Cape Canaveral. That was in April 2021. At that point, watching the launch in person, that was the moment where I was like, that is what I want to do. That is the shit right there. Say what you will about SpaceX, but I just want to preface by saying the CEO is a nut job. However, the other very, very talented engineers, the driving force behind everything that's being made to work as well as it does, all power to them, and I only hope that they go far in life. Especially with some of those crews' involvements in the future Artemis missions, either Artemis 4 or Artemis 3. I don't know which one's going to land on the moon first, but whichever ones they're going to be working on with the lunar program, I only hope that things go well for them. And I wanted to be a part of that team. I wanted to be involved in that part of aerospace engineering. I was very, very committed to getting into that side of the industry. And then things slowly fell apart. That's not to say that things were uneventful for me. I was heavily involved with the school's rocketry club, which through them I was able to become certified to use high-powered level 1 motors. That's long expired since I haven't renewed it, and I haven't flown a level 1 rocket for a while, just because it's just so damn expensive. But I still have that one rocket that got me that certification. It's still in my room as a trophy. I was able to demonstrate that I could learn from my mistakes. I could learn visually and kinesthetically, learn by doing, and improve on things that I'd made mistakes on. I had the engineer's brain, but I wasn't a numbers guy. More specifically, I wasn't a calculus guy. Calculus is my Achilles heel. There's a reason why it fulfills a language requirement at BYU. I don't know if that's the case for other schools, but that's the specific case for me and how they run calculus here. And that logic makes sense because it did feel like just a completely different language to me. I could tell you about how orbital mechanics work. I could tell you how a wing generates lift. But if you give me a formula, I could not translate that to you. Other people can, I just can't. And I think that that calculus class, it was Math 112 specifically, that was the first time that I had failed a class big time. And I mean big time. Because I just wasn't able to tack on to the subject and, homework material. Different assignments every single weekday, and I just wasn't able to hang on to any of it. It was super, super stressful. It honestly would have done my head in big time if I had continued on anymore. So eventually I had to make the decision of, well, I want to continue going to college because even if the bachelor's degree is kind of losing its... I have no idea how much it means nowadays to have your bachelor's compared to something even higher like your master's or whatever. It's at least something to hang on to so you can show people like, hey, I'm competent, I can do what you need me to if you ask me to do it. But what to major in? And that was a really hard question to answer for a really, really long time. And I just kept thinking, like, there's nothing for me to do. There's nothing that interests me as much as this mechanical engineering stuff. Like, that's all I could think about for almost a full, 7 years. I'd been designing paper airplanes, I'd been learning about orbital mechanics through Kerbal Space Program, through building and flying model rockets, and I just didn't really see a viable alternative. And that's a problem because I had no choice but to find an alternative, because calculus just wasn't gonna work. Eventually, my family and I resorted to looking into options of okay, we're gonna need to find something that I'm able to knock out relatively quickly, because I don't want this ordeal of school to last longer than it needs to. And we were looking at the catalog and we were like, oh, okay, global studies geography, that's only 37 credits, or anywhere between 37 to 40 credits. That's fine, we'll just go ahead and go with that. The first geography class that I decided to take, it was Geography 120, Geography and World Affairs, taught by Dr. Grayson Morgan. So I walked in and introduced myself after the introductory lecture was finished, and I will never forget our first interaction. He was super friendly, and I explained my situation to him, and he basically explained something like this. I understand what you're going through. I went through that exact same kind of process that you did and are going through, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that your experience within the geography department makes sense in the mind of an engineer. It doesn't get better than that, right? And since then, I've been able to do pretty big things. I did some research work with him, looking into the accuracy of the CNN that we were working on. ArcGIS, we were looking at the accuracy of how an algorithm was able to identify different land features. He's working on the report right now, so hopefully those results turn out good and informative on his part. I was able to get my Part 107 drone license with the help of Dr. Steve Schill, someone else in the department. And Dr. Schill actually teaches another class, remote sensing class. And through that, we were actually able to collaborate with an international group called Rewilding Europe. And we were tasked with looking at this satellite data and seeing where we could most likely find good places for European bison that are just being reintroduced into the wild as of, I think, a little over a decade ago. My classmate and I are finishing up the report, and hopefully it's competent enough. We gave a presentation, and our sponsors seem to really like it, and they seem to understand. So, yeah, hopefully that's helpful for them. But yeah, overall, I've had a really, really great experience. And honestly, I appreciate the context of local, international geography that I kind of took for granted when I was a little bit younger. And I appreciate this greater context. I wouldn't have that if I didn't fail at being an engineer. But yeah, in a time where I felt like I couldn't go any further, where I thought that I just wouldn't be able to progress in a direction that I thought was optimal or interesting for me, something that I didn't really think I would enjoy, well, I'm enjoying where I am right now. And hopefully that's encouraging to someone else that might hear this and might be going through something else. So, yeah, that's kind of my invitation to you, to not fear of failure, because that gives you an opportunity to assess your situation and figure out how to effectively move forward. I found that that's been more helpful than not lately. So there you go, that's my 2 cents. I'll just leave it here, and I hope that last part was informative, and hope you found that interesting. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again after finals.